Junwen Liang, pianist, has joined us here at Quincy Access Television. I want to welcome you, Juen, and look forward to finding out about your musical journey.
Thank you for having me.
You're a pianist, a solo pianist. You also do perform in collaborations.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic style. A couple things I just need to read from the start. Just a couple of quotes. A very gifted pianist and a musician of great sensitivity. Richard Good. Captivating. Stroll magazine. With an engaging stage presence, helpful spoken introductions to the music, and confident programming skills. Juen Liang is ready for a major career. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
So let's talk about, we'll get to hearing your music in a little bit, but let's talk about your beginnings. You grew up in China.
Yes. So yeah, I grew up in Nanning, which is the southwest region in China. And I started to learn how to play piano when I was around like 9 years old. But actually before that, my father taught me some basic music theories. So I was able to adapt that kind of knowledge before I started to learn how to play piano. So I was just very fortunate to that. But then after that, I went to music school around the age of 11. So it's like 2 years later after I started to play the piano. So yeah, and then I spent like 6 years for the pre-college program in China. It's called Guangxi Arts Institute. And then after that, I also stayed for another year in China, just do some kind of collegiate study with another teacher before I came to the United States for undergrad.
So you came to the United States for undergraduate studies?
Yes.
And then the school that you studied at?
Oh, yes. So I started my undergrad at Ithaca College, so upstate New York. And
Right.
then I went to Indiana University, Bloomington, Jacob School of Music for my master's studies. And then after that, I went to the Pennsylvania State University for my doctoral studies in piano performance. And then after that, of course, I just feel like I need to really improve my piano playing skill. So I went to the Peabody Institute of Johns Hopkins University for like a postdoc diploma program. So.
And when we started this interview, you had said that you actually started late.
Yes.
And 9 years old doesn't seem late, but I guess it could be considered late.
Yeah, I think because in China, most of the kids, especially if the parents want them to study music and also start to learn an instrument, it's always recommended to start in a very early age. It's like 4 or 5 years old. And you also see examples that you have kids around like 2 or 3 just to start a little bit more advanced learning in music. So around age 9, even one of the concerts I recently played, some of the audience asked me when did I start to play the piano. So I told them like, okay, I started to play piano around 9, but then they were kind of shocked and surprised because it was like, oh, that's kind of late. But to me, I was like, yeah, but still I just very grateful for like being able to kind of adapt to that kind of intense learning for that minimum amount of time before I went to music school. So yeah.
And what brought you to the piano?
It's actually a very interesting story because before I started playing the piano, I actually took voice lessons as a kid because I think my parents also found I may have some kind of interest in singing. So I took lessons with a local teacher, which is like living a few blocks away from where I lived. And of course she has a piano and upright. And I think there's one day she asked me, just kind of very, out of curiosity, she wants to kind of test out my oral skill, just like see if I can be able to capture the pitch. So she just played some random notes and I was able to identify them. And then she just showed me some of the folk tunes and then asked me if I can follow through, and I did. And I think from that point, my parents was like, maybe playing piano could be an option other than singing, because also I think around, especially if you're a guy, like as you get older, your voice changes. So I think from that point, I also deeply know that maybe singing is not, even though I enjoy singing, but I don't want to pursue this as a career. So I think from that point, my parent was like, let's just buy him a piano and then just see how it goes.
That's interesting that certainly if you had chosen voice, yes, your voice does change with age. It, I suppose, wears out, right?
Yes.
And maybe not so much, certainly joints in your fingers could certainly do that too, but maybe not to the extent that a voice might change.
Yes, that's for sure.
So growing up, who influenced you? Who did you listen to? Who do you currently listen to?
So growing up, especially after I entered music school, I listened to a lot of recordings by Martha Argerich. So she's a very well-known Argentine pianist, who won the Chopin competitions. And then she just has that kind of very motivating and encouraging vibes through all her recordings, and of course, highly pianistic skills and everything that just make everything sound perfect. And I think from that point, I listened to a lot of her recordings that kind of pushed me a little further to explore more repertoire from Chopin, or even just like in the romantic era, composers from romantic era. And then also even now at this current stage, I also listen to a lot of her recordings, also live recordings. And then in the meantime, also listen to one of my teacher, Richard Gould, some of his recordings from early 90s. So, just something that just still kind of give me a guidance and just kind of follow through.
And you had mentioned Philip Glass too.
Yes, absolutely.
So I guess my question now is, as a pianist or as any musician, how do you interpret other artist works, and how do you make that sound your own?
Yes, I think this is that kind of the question that I feel like I'm still in a process of getting answers, or maybe searching for answers. But I would say listening to a lot of recordings definitely helps, and also I was very fortunate enough to have all my teachers from the past that guide me through understanding a proper styles of the touch and styles of the articulations and then sounds, and also just how you want to work on phrasings and with appropriate timings and everything. And I got an opportunities to be able to perform through live performances and do a lot of recordings, and also just have a lot of feedbacks from my colleagues and then teachers that guide me through, okay, here's how you should think about when you play Mozart, or here's how you should play for Chopin. And I think also having the opportunities to perform across the state since this past summer, I got the opportunities to try out different pianos and different kinds of different kinds of venues that will also help me to understand how I can interpret the composers with appropriate timing, appropriate touch. And I think because also I strongly believe that after you learn all those knowledge, you get all the knowledge from schools and then play so much repertoire, at one point that you have to put this on your own. Like, you have the freedom to share your emotions through those pieces. So then I think from that point, I also become very, very sensitive and very intimate with those composers' music. So then I think when I have the chance to perform on stage, I share part of my feelings as well. So I think that definitely helps me to approach to those composers further.
Right. Let's talk about the stage, and let's talk about solo piano, verse, collaborations. You've done both.
Yes.
And I guess, is there a difference?
Absolutely. I think, I would say it's 50-50 because sometimes when you perform on stage as a solo pianist, there are always moments you have to think about. You're not just only play a percussive instrument, but it's also about thinking different sounds from different instruments. Like, for example, just like maybe if you're playing one of the late Beethoven sonatas, you'll always think about either like a string quartet, which is something that he wrote a lot around his later times. So I think sometimes if I play some of the pieces like this, I will always think about how I wanna like picturing if I'm a string player, so how I'm able to feel that connection with the instrumentalist, so I can pursue a further sound other than just feeling like, oh, there's just the way to the hammers hit the strings, and so it vibrates and you can hear the sound. But then when it comes to playing with people on stage, it's different. I would say in a way that when you play with singers, you have to follow their timing, follow their text. So that could be something that I have to think a little bit extra, and just to be sure that I always follow along, but also have to have them listen to what I showed through the music. But then when you play with the instrumentalist, it's also similar feeling, but because sometimes the timing can always be communicated, and you can always feel like you are, like all of you are in the unison. So you play together as a whole, not just individual self. So I think from that perspective, I always learn a lot that, of course, also helped me to play my solo pieces better. But I think it's just all a sense of feeling that you develop some kind of individuality together. So yeah.
Yeah, that's well said. And I'd like to add that well said for an instructor, because we didn't get to that part, but you are an instructor as well.
Yes, I am. It's actually kind of interesting to now I think about it, because I literally just graduated from Peabody this past May. But then, of course, I'm just very grateful and fortunate that my teaching position at the University of Pennsylvania came through. So I now teach piano in the music department, but also I do collaborative works to work with some singers, it's like an opera and musical theater workshop project. So I'd be able to work alongside with a distinguished artist herself, and then also I get to teach students for private lessons.
I want to get to students in just a bit, but
yes.
Just kind of reacting to what you said moments ago regarding collaborations,
Yeah.
you'd probably agree, and how you have to listen to and work with the other musicians on the stage for the sound to be pleasant, right?
Yes.
So would you agree that you could have talented musicians together on stage, but when they come together, they don't necessarily work well together? That could happen.
Yes, absolutely. I think that definitely requires a lot of communication. I think sometimes it's not just about you want to do this and you want to do that, and then even though you guys are playing the same piece, but it's all about coming to an agreement to respect each other's playing style. Just kind of, and then having come to agreement that understanding, okay, we're playing this piece, so we should follow through the phrasing, follow through the sound and the style, and maybe a way to find a balance between different kind of instruments so that we don't overlap. Especially, if you play with piano with a full stick, then sometimes the sound can overlap a lot with all the other instruments. So it's just a way to kind of always come to a point that, okay, you have to communicate beforehand. So
let's talk about some of the venues that you've performed at. quite a varied, I suppose, collection.
Yes, absolutely. Just like I said before, I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity just to kind of play through different venues and with different types of audience. I think to me, I always enjoy, of course, growing up, especially and after entering music school, I always enjoy playing the concert hall, and with 9-foot grand piano. But I think now as a professional, to build a professional career, I always try to allow myself to embrace any kind of venue and perspective that you respond from, that you will receive from the audience, and then this acoustic, because that will always help you pursue further, and it always get improved. So yeah.
I know you've done festivals
Yes.
as well. Let's talk about some recognition, some awards that you've had the honor of receiving.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think most recently I won a competition called the American Prize. So this is the competition that I heard since I was in probably like second or third year of undergrad, because I know a lot of professors or professional groups, they all competed for that competition to get recognitions across the state. So I participated once, where I got a third place when I did my doctoral studies. But then a few years later, I decided to enter again, and then I won the first prize. So I was very grateful for that. And not to mention, one of my former teacher, Roberto Plano, who is the very well-known concert artist from Italy, he also won that competition in the professional category. So I think from that point, I was very honored just to be able to win some kind of recognition that follow along with everything that what my previous teacher did. So I'm very happy with that, yeah.
Something that did kind of jump out at me when I was reading your biography
Yes.
was that you have played or were a part of the Carnegie Hall Masterclass series.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was absolutely an honor, and I think it was actually I played that with a chamber group. So we did the Schubert Trout quintet. That the instrumentation was like piano, violin, viola, cello, and double bass. So it was a very unique opportunity because we were the only group that got accepted for that program, and then we got to work with the principal cellist from Berlin Philharmonic. So it was just such an honor, because I also heard a lot of recordings that that principal cellist was part of with chambers and some ensembles. So it was actually very honored just to also be able to meet him in person, and we got a lot of good feedbacks from him as well. So it was just very memorable experience.
In the last 2 minutes of
Yes.
this interview, and folks will get to hear you perform, which will be a treat.
Yes.
But what would you say to someone interested in getting into music? Now, I suppose I'm talking to you as, I suppose a student would talk to a teacher.
Yes. I would say embrace any kind of music and always go to live concert. And if you start to already learn how to play the instrument, always have the opportunity to play for your family, for friends, encouraging each other, because it's always important to build a healthy community and environment to have people to have further development and interest in music, especially if you want to pursue a professional career. So always care, always embrace any possibilities.
Very good. We will leave it at there for the interview, but
Yes.
folks will get to witness your artistry in just a moment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank you for having me.
And now you get to, as I had promised, witness the artistry of Juan Leong.